Hello Nyy'xai Planet Earth, this is Nyy'xai Coach. This episode is going to be on the Nyy'xai Peak Pathway. A peak pathway is, for any given mojo, all 8 of their powers, used as they were designed to be for the greatest amount of productive harmony. As a Nyy'xai, we've discussed already your 4 conscious powers, which are Nyy'xai, Z, and Vi, but you also have the remaining 4 powers of the psyche, but they are unconscious. You can put all these 8 powers in a ranking we call the consciousness ranking, which is the order of how easy it is for you to access them from your conscious mind. The first rank is Ni. That is the easiest power for you to access consciously. The next power for you to access would be Zhai, then over to Z, and then to Vi. Powers you've covered so far. But then, in the unconscious, you have Nai. Nai is the strongest and closest to the surface in the unconscious, so it is the next easiest to connect in a conscious way. Although it's unconscious, it is easier for you to reach through your conscious powers. Then up here you have Ji. Ji is deeper still in your unconscious. Deeper still than that, over here is going to be the Zai for your unconscious genius. And then finally up here, Vi. So that's the order of your of your consciousness peak pathway. Ni, Zhai, Z, Vi, Nai, Ji, Zai, Vi. When you experience peak pathway though, it's going to have not such a technical feel to it. It's going to be real light. It's going to feel a bit like a ride in your psyche that you experience through your whole body and being and throughout your whole life and every activity that you do. Going along the consciousness hierarchy, we'll go through the peak pathway. The first part is the charging up phase, and that is basically your Ni. That is the power that is always there for you, and so you never have to start your story like, how do I start doing it? It's already on right now. If you're a Nyy'xai, already your Ni is booting up and has been booting up, waiting for you to do something with the energy. We call that the charging up phase, giving you energy to do what you need to do with your heroic storyline. Then you have the conscious accessing of Ni, that gives you major momentum, like we talked about. Conscious accessing of Zhai, that gives you minor momentum. Then you go and we call cross the divide, which is you're going to go across to the other side of your psyche, and over there on that side, you're going to have your modulation powers, starting with Z and then with Vi. When you make that trip, you take possibilities and you find ones that resonate with your core values, and you find strategies that work for you, and then you actually keep life lessons that you never want to forget, that you would have as part of your permanent personal legacy. When you do that, it is your portal into your unconscious, because Nai, the top power in your unconscious, it responds to the special kind of Vi you provide. So when you go Ni, Zhai, Z, and Vi, it creates a chain reaction that awakens your unconscious genius. When that first happens, you'll feel a general rise in energetic levels, a swelling of energy. It's similar to the rising energy of the charge up phase, but now you're feeling your unconscious powers being given over to you. They're connecting, they're interfacing with your conscious powers, boosting them up. So when you feel this boosting of energy, that's what we call the swelling up phase. And that comes from successfully doing your conscious powers in such a way that it awakens your unconscious. When the unconscious awakens, it'll tend to come, we call a tidal wave, meaning your Nai and Ji of your unconscious will come together as one. They also come personified form, which we'll talk about in another episode. But just as energy, the Nai brings conceptualizing, detaching, envisioning. It gives long-range planning, global modeling, things like this, but it's combined with a code of conduct and the way things should be done in a heroic code of conduct and things like this. And that will come as a being in your psyche to you. It'll come to you as a general sensation and as a reaction that your psyche has to what you do consciously. As you do things consciously, the Nai and Ji of your unconscious will react accordingly. As one sort of compound unit we call the tidal wave. But then these can separate into distinct Nai and Ji to do things and for you to interact with, but it won't be as naturally differentiated as the conscious powers are. The conscious powers, particularly over here, they tend to be more differentiated and able for you to grab them individually. As you go over to Z and Vi, it's a bit more of a reach to do it, so it's not hands-on. When you go in the unconscious, it's kind of a bit like you're fumbling around for it, or kind of is like handed to you from places unknown. So it kind of comes as a package deal. But you can unpack it. You can unpack it into the Nyi and the Zzy. Then you have the coastal wave, which is, if you do that correctly, you're going to have energy coming from the Zai and V of your unconscious. But that flows naturally from the Nyi and Zzy of the unconscious. So if that goes well, it'll continue and it'll take the energy back over to your side through the Zai and V and return it to you in your native quadrant of Nyi. So there, you're now ready to start the cycle again. And this can be done if you peak properly, a bit like flexing a muscle or going to the gym or something, and so you'll have a refractory period. So after you go through the peak pathway, Nyy'xai'zyy'vai'nai'xyy'zai'vyy, there's kind of like, but don't worry, that's just a refractory period, and it will immediately start building up energy again to the charge up phase to begin the whole process again. Now, all your powers are interacting together all the time. So it's a question of how you access them and how you understand what's going on. So it's not going to be a strict Nyy'xai'zyy'vai'nai'xyy'zai'vyy, so forth when you do things. Like you're having all the powers work simultaneously, and then you may suddenly need to read a paper or say something, and that goes right to your Z. So you can go into any order that you want to. However, going in certain orders make for the greatest gaining of energy to help you bring into any activity or maneuver you want to do. So two main ones are the consciousness one we just talked about, Nyy'xai'zyy'vai'nai'xyy'zai'vyy. When you do it in that order, it'll be easier to use powers that might be far away, might be a bit of modulation, because you brought momentum and understanding to it. You built that up, you built that steam up. However, the consciousness hierarchy is not actually the hierarchy of most influence in the psyche. The most influence in the psyche is what we call the energetic hierarchy. And that has to do with which channels take precedence in your psyche, which channels, which corridors. However, that is different than which powers are conscious. So as a Nyy'xai, your top energetic power is still Nyi, but the second energetic power would be Nyi. Even though it's unconscious, it has a nearly equal influence in the psyche as the Nyi does. And really it is sort of equal, except the Nyi is conscious and it takes lead in the dance. For you as a Nyy'xai, the Nyi takes lead. Continuing on, your next energetic power is Zhai, because the values-based channel is the next most important channel for you. But that means the next energetic ranking, the fourth energetic ranking, is Zzy, another unconscious power. It's unconscious, but it is part of the Zhez channel, which is your second rank channel. Then for you is Z, and after Z is the unconscious Zai. Then you have the polar Vi, and then the furthest as far as energetics is going to be the polar V. As Nyy'xai, you can access all your powers to do all kinds of different things, but you'll always be working with that consciousness hierarchy rank of how much you can directly go for them, and energetic ranking on the level of influence that power has based on which channel it's in. So the range is incredible, but you are working with that design. The more you're able to understand it, the more you'll be able to access all your powers and do all the incredible things they can do once you know how they work. Know yourself, grow yourself, save the world. And the peak pathway that you were born with, that is the main way that you will know yourself, you will grow yourself, and get all the magic powers you need to help save the world.